Great. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the August 21st, 2024 Franklin Township Board of Supervisors meeting to order at, looks like 7:02 p.m. In attendance are Vice Chair Donna D., Supervisors Jim Johnston, Dawn Dowling, and Betsy Augers. Also in attendance are Township Supervisor Guy Donatelli, Township Operation Manager Jeff Eastburn, and is Melissa on? No, I think so. Okay. And Township Secretary Stacy House. There are, gosh, we got quite a few. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9, 10. I got approximately 10 members of the public, maybe a little bit more. I'll go with 10. All right, can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Okay, so the next part of the meeting is public comment. Public comment may include any comments related to tonight's agenda items. Commenters must state your name and whether you're a resident of the township or a non-resident taxpayer in the township. If you do not identify yourself, your comments will not be included in the official minutes. Do we have any public comments?
Yes, it's John.
Okay, John.
I have some comments I'm going to make at the end of the meeting.
Thanks, John. All right, so then, John, let me turn it to you.
Okay. We have to move to approval of minutes, June 19th, 2024 Board of Supervisors meeting minutes. I'd like to make a motion that the board approve the June 19th, 2024 Board of Supervisors meeting minutes. Second, Jim, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries 4-1. 4-0, sorry. Dave's not here. August 5th, the 2024 Board of Supervisors workshop meeting minutes. I make a motion that the board approve the August 5th, 2024 Board of Supervisors workshop meeting minutes. Second?
I'll second it.
By Jim again. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, this time I'll get it. Passes 4-0. Okay, now the HARB, we're going on to reports.
We're going to do storm first. Oh, that was my mistake. I didn't know that. So you want me to do, we could just say that there was no HARB meeting, right? Just and close it down. Yeah, so I'll let Dawn do that.
Okay, yeah. Starting with the reports, the HARB did not hold an August meeting, so there's no report.
So then,
Planning Commission also.
and the piece of.
Yeah.
Right. All right. All right. So glad to see Ron's on the screen. So Ron, you're going to give us a report of MS4. I know you've been doing some work in the background and working with Jeff and myself. So please, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. Can I use the screen, share the screen? Am I hooked up?
Yes, sir. Give me a second.
Should be ready to go.
Go ahead, Ron.
We see it.
Okay, so this is the newest version of the what is now a combined PRP and TMDL plan. And I'm going to walk you through the results and a little bit about how we got to that point, and then talk a little bit about how we're going to achieve meeting that load reduction requirement that we think we now have based on this revised plan. So immediately following the title page and the table of contents, there is an executive summary. And then in that executive summary is where I'm going to point out some of the numbers that we have. So in the PRP, the load is based on a loading rate for the pervious areas in the PRP section of the township and the impervious areas. And there's a much larger load associated with the impervious areas. And this is the area that's in the Big Elk Creek watershed, pretty much to the west side of 896. So when we went through and calculated the numbers on that, we came up with a total load reduction that would be required throughout the full extent of the MS4 program. We came up with 103,844 pounds per year. Again, as with the TMDL, you're only required to remove 10% of that in this first permit cycle. So our target load reduction is 10,384 pounds per year. This is a little bit different than numbers I saw in the Aero report and the LTL report, but we couldn't match them exactly. We couldn't figure out exactly how they got those. So these are the numbers that when this goes in, essentially my license is going to be the license that's put on here that says these numbers are true and accurate. So these are the numbers I would stand by. In the TMDL, it's a little different process. We're going with the land use loading rate. Basically, it's a spinoff of something called MapShed, which was a model that was prepared by Penn State about 10, 12 years ago. And that load allows you to do a 1995 base year, which is when the TMDL plan was approved. And then you take it to 2012, and you can take credit for any reduction or change in the load that went into the streams based on that land use rate. And then you can also take credit for existing BMPs. So when we went through and calculated the numbers based on the areas that we had in the TMDL side, again, that's the east side of 896. That's in the mostly in the White Clay Creek watershed, the different branches. We came up with a total load of 104,766 pounds. And then when we applied the credit that we got for existing BMPs, we got 103,844 pounds, which gave us a total target reduction using that 10% rule of 10,380. I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong paragraph. It's the one, yeah, I wish it was that number. It's the 1,389,000, and then it got reduced to 1,237,000. And so then we took our BMPs from that, and our total goal was actually 121,895. Sorry for them. So that's much less than what Aero first told you when they were saying that it was based on the full urbanized area. I think they were looking at close to 400,000 pounds of load reduction. This is a little higher than what I came up with back when I did sort of the quick and dirty assemblage of what LTL did and tried to throw the agricultural land back into their first TMDL plan, because if you recall, their first attempt at sending this and getting it approved by DEP, they were saying that the township was going to leave the agricultural load reduction up to the farmers. The township wasn't going to do that, but DEP came back right away and said, no, you can't do that.
So Ron, just to summarize, 'cause I think this is important for us, for the TMDL, which was always going to be the larger challenge for us. It's about a third of what Arrow had told us. So that's good news, assuming that DEP agrees. So, but it's about a third, because I think they were like 360 or somewhere around that number. But for PRP, for the is that about the same as what we were? Because this is the one we're going to do at PennDOT. Is that 10,384 pounds about the same as what we were looking at before?
I think the number that we had, and I've been searching for that number and haven't been able to find the exact number. We have, and I know Guy has been helping look at and trying to figure out what the memorandum of agreement or whatever we're calling that contractual arrangement with PennDOT is and how much load that buys us. But I think that was more in the 9,000 pounds level than 10,384. So it
It's
changed
pretty
a little
close.
bit,
It's pretty close, right?
but it's
10,
pretty close.
Yeah.
And the way I understand the contract works is that you're essentially paying a percentage of the cost of what PennDOT had to spend to do that project over in East Nottingham Township on the blank farm, so that we end up getting a percentage assigned. So we're buying, and in my example here, we're buying about 1%. And so we would get 1% of whatever load credit that they would get. And what we're wanting to do is to achieve 10,384, which will allow us to meet our needs. That project has for 5 years, they have to document what they think is the efficiency of how well that project is working. And it had an original target. Scroll down through all that. Scroll's not working very well now. I'm sharing.
I don't know if you can make it any bigger, but it's kind of hard to see, but if not, I know we'll get a copy of the document when you give it to Jeff.
Can you hit that center square on the screen? you
I'll try to
shared?
get it better here when I get to the section that I want to talk about. Let's see here. Remember what page I had for that, but testing BMPs, that we took out already. I haven't done this under Zoom. Usually I have a little tab over here I can grab a hold of and slide things around. All right, so we're going to be looking at several projects, and again, that's not the one I want. So I'm sorry about this. I think it's this page. Essentially, what we're doing is taking the total load that PennDOT said the project is supposed to achieve and saying, okay, we're going to get, it comes out to just a shade under 1% of that load reduction. But they assumed 100% was like 2.5 million pounds of load reduction. They've had a 1-year anniversary now, and their first year, they were able to achieve about a 92% efficiency rating. So that meant instead of 2.5 million, they were getting 92% of that, whatever that would be, around 1.3 million, 1.3 million. What I'm suggesting we do is to purchase this based on assuming a 75% efficiency rating for the full 5 years, because we don't know whether it's going to get better or worse depending on how the project, vegetation, the topography and all of that kind of stuff last over the course of the next 5 years. But I feel 75% is a comfortable rate, so that when they get to the end and negotiate with DEP, and DEP says, okay, here's what the project yields in terms of load reduction, the 1% that we're paying for will give us more than, at least, and hopefully slightly more than the load that we need to meet our requirements.
Does that become a credit for the next permit?
And if we don't, we're only talking if, it's going to be off a few hundred. So yeah, that would be able to be then credited to your next load reduction that you've got to do.
Ron, if it falls short, do we have a chance to true it up? Or do we just have to do more in the next 5 years?
We might, that has not been, and I don't think that's in the contract, how that works out. If we fall short on what we asked for after like the 5th year or something. But my understanding is, in talking to the design folks for the project, is that PennDOT basically gets to double count the load that they get for this project. So there's a load that they use, and then there's a load that they're making available to the municipalities. So even though the percentage yield would go down, they may still be able to provide us with that without any additional cost, that load. And I don't think that's negotiated in the contract at this point yet. But we're not talking thousands, we're talking hundreds of pounds or tens of pounds. So it's not like it's going to be at $1.95 a pound. It's not a lot if we got to buy, another 100 pounds.
So Ron, I know you're not going to go into this, but maybe after you're done your presentation, we can go to Guy because we haven't heard anything from PennDOT. And so I mean, you said they're already into their first year and they have an efficiency of 92%. I don't know why we're not with them, but we'll just put that aside until you're done and then we'll go talk to Guy. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine with me. And maybe what we can, if that's okay with Guy, and maybe at some point in the not too distant future, we want to expand our discussions beyond just PennDOT and talk to some of the technical folks that are actually out there doing these measurements to determine the efficiency, and see what their understanding is of how their efficiency is going to be applied.
That's DEP, right? Is that,
Oh, is it
who's
Yeah.
that? with?
Well, it was PennDOT's contractor who I've been getting my information from, a company called RES. They're the ones that designed and oversaw the construction of putting the stream restoration project on the ground. I went out there and visited it in early June. It looked much better than I thought it would look. And in fact, I don't know how much time you want me to do stuff. I've got some photographs of the before and after that I could show on this presentation if you would like.
So maybe just give them to Jeff and he can send them to us. I don't think we need to see them. Yeah, I'm more interested, and I know you'll get there, is how we're gonna get for the TMDL, how we're going to get those numbers. Like, so how much is it going to cost us to do the projects that contribute to that? So
on the TMDL side, as I mentioned, we needed to get to that 121,000 level. And in the original LTL and the Arrow, and now in our report, we are using 2 locations for a potential stream restoration. Sorry for, again, like I say, the map's just not cooperating. Okay, so these would be the proposed projects that we would propose to consider in order to meet that 121,000 pounds of load reduction that we need based on the latest TMDL calculations. So there are 17 existing BMP retrofit projects that we've got on the list to be considered, and 3 locations where we would do stream restoration. Goodwin Preserve, and then 2 locations in Crossing Park would be where we would have the stream restoration projects. Those are the most cost-effective BMPs, whether we do it through PennDOT, some sort of shared arrangement with neighbors, or do it on our own. They're the most cost-effective method in terms of the cost per pound of load reduction. DEP just this year, and with this round of reviews, bumped up the credit that you get per linear foot of stream from 44.88 pounds per foot to 115 pounds per foot. So to meet the 121,895 that we need, you need 1,060 linear feet of stream restoration project. The average cost for stream restoration projects are somewhere in the $450 per foot, or $477,000 to get what we need, which is in the 450 pound range rather than, the $1.95 that we got from PennDOT, but PennDOT gets a lot of extra graces along the way in order to be able to do their project at a lesser cost. So that would be what I would suggest that we do first, and we either do all of the Goodwin Preserve if it looks favorable. I wouldn't do that as piecemeal because we're only talking, I think that one's only like 50 feet more than what we need, so I wouldn't leave behind that 50 feet. While you've got the equipment there, go ahead and do it. The Crossing Park has about 2.5 times as much as we need. So I would only do what we need for this first permit cycle under a contract for that one. The only exception might be if we got a tremendous grant or something, or to help do some of that project, we might want to go ahead and do some of that and bank it for the future if DEP would allow us to do that. And that would be something I'd want to make sure of before, we spent the money to do that banking.
So Ron, I think I got the numbers right. If Stefan was here, I know I would get them right. So we need about 1,000 linear feet, maybe a little bit more. And at $450, $500 per foot, that's going to cost us about $500,000 over the
Yes.
5 years. Is that what we're saying?
Yes, yeah, about 477. I got my initial number is about 477,000.
Okay. It's a lot better than what Ara was talking about. We were talking about $3 million. Okay. All right. All right. Oh, just one other question. I know you're saying stream restoration is the best in terms of cost effective, right? You get the most credit for the work. What happens if there's a storm and the whole thing blows up? We're gonna have to fix it, right? That's a risk we take.
We would have some, but this basically what you're doing is it's a stream restoration, but it also serves as a flood control, flood management type retrofit to the stream. And again, I can send you a link to a video of the one that they did in East Nottingham that shows, how that's holding up as far as they've taken an area that has a very narrow channel, a very narrow overbank that's subject to erosion, and you'll have 6 or 8 foot cuts sometimes in the embankments from the water gushing through this stream. They flatten that out and make it so it flows much more slowly and over a much larger area. They really did that to a large extent on the one in East Nottingham. The PennDOT did. Nixon Park, Kennett Borough, and Kennett Township did one that went through a wooded area portion of their park, and it's a much more narrow, but again, it creates a much more stable floodplain. There is the potential for some washouts that would have to be fixed, especially in the first few years while vegetation was getting established. But that's one thing that we're getting sort of an insurance policy with that $1.95 per pound that we're getting from PennDOT. When we put one in on our own, we're going to be the one that's the one that has to ensure that it stays in place. So you're right, there is some exposure.
Hey, Ron, could you just tell us real quick about the timing of this? This is a 5-year period that started.
Doesn't start until it gets approved.
It doesn't start till it gets, but do we have the whole 5 years to do it, or as long as it's completed by the end of that 5-year period?
Yeah, I would say they would be looking to have the construction completed in that 5-year period. You heard me mention the 5-year evaluation period that they're using on the one in East Nottingham Township for PennDOT. That would start once the project is finished and go beyond the permit cycle. It doesn't have to be done within that permit cycle. So construction finished in 5 years. And I would suspect there probably would be some leeway on that, because if you're starting to do a stream restoration project and you get hung up in slow down a little bit in permitting or whatever, or you have the opportunity to get some grant money, and so it doesn't get quite finished until that grant comes in or something like that, I think they would work with you.
Betsy or Are you done? Do you
No,
have
this-
questions?
This is wonderful to understand this much better now.
So Ron, what's our next steps? Will you, I don't, it might be helpful for the board to look at this document. I don't think it will take us, I'm not gonna review it page by page, but at least look at the executive summary. Is that something that Jeff can provide for us? And then maybe the next meeting, give you the okay to get this thing submitted? Is that okay? Or are we holding you up? What do you?
No,
what do you suggest?
DEP is, I think they're starting to feel a little pressure from EPA again, so they're anxious. I've gotten an email recently wanting to know what our timing was on this, but up until that email, they had not been pushing. So I would say we do it at our own pace and get it right, but as long as we're not totally dragging our feet. But what I would offer would be that, and it could be an executive session, if it meets the qualifications for executive session, Guy, or just meeting one-on-one with a supervisor or two to walk through this a little bit, because sometimes just reading through this, it's kind of confusing what you're reading and what it really means or whatever. So I'd be willing to go down page by page and go through it with, anyone who's interested in doing that. And then I think it would be good to look at the video of the one in East Nottingham and the slides that I have from the one at Nixon Park, because you're kind of seeing what am I really buying into stream restoration. It's not just making it look pretty. It's some fairly major changes to the stream morphology, the topography along outside of the stream itself out there. And, it's gonna look a little different.
So Guy, I don't know if this would qualify for an executive session, but is this something we could be a fact-finding discussion where we could just have Ron talk to us, if we don't make a decision? I don't know. What do you suggest?
I think it's perfectly acceptable to address it in executive session as both fact finding and as both advice relating to legal obligations under a particular program. So I'm very comfortable having that conversation in an executive session at some point.
Jeff will work with Ron to make that happen. Okay, that would be great. As long as we can get our hands on the document ahead of time. But I mean, I understand, Ron, you'll have to take us through it because I think it's like 500. I mean, these things are huge. Right.
Well,
So
my version has boiled it down considerably, and the version that I'm using was just approved in London Grove in New London. So they're approving, the document that we're putting together, that you're right. LTL document was, I don't know, page, inch and a half thick or something like that. I don't know what the page count was, but this one will be about a quarter of an inch thick and have a few large maps that we need to fold out. And that's where I think it's important to be able to sit down across the table with one another and look at some of these larger maps and discuss what's going on here, what do we do there, that kind of thing. So, but I'll get a PDF. I'm actually on vacation this week, but I will be back in the office on Monday, so I'll get Jeff a finished PDF or the final draft PDF for distribution to the board members for review on Monday.
Betsy, anything from you? Okay.
No, I'm thrilled that it's less than we thought it was gonna be.
All right, Ron, thank
Thanks,
you.
Ron.
I don't know if you want to comment on
I
the
think-
pen.
Yeah, I'd like to. This is an appropriate time to do that. And a lot of this is history, but I'm awaiting for a recent request to Mr. St. Clair. We, as you know, had approved the agreement, signed it, sent it up, didn't hear anything. At some point, I received this year from Mr. St. Clair an email attaching a participation agreement from, I think it was Londonderry Township, that contained very similar clauses that were in the participation agreement contribution agreement that we had sent up. And it didn't appear to me to be material changes. And I said to Daryl, my client will be happy to re-sign an agreement with these terms. Send me one for my township, or send me a Word version of the contract that Londonderry signed, I'll conform it to our pounds and dollar amounts, and I'll have it signed and sent back to you. He said, I can't do that. I can't have a document converted from a PDF or a read-only to a Word version, but I'll see if I can get permission from General Counsel to do that. I reached out for him when Jeff had mentioned to me last week that there was that we now had learned that PennDOT's plan had been approved, and I expect any minute now a Word version from Daryl St. Clair that I can spend literally 10 minutes with and can conform it to what OGC seems to want. If I don't, when I get back into the office, I will simply have the Londonderry PDF converted into a Word document and make the changes myself, present it to the board for its consideration and execution, and then send it to Daryl. So that's where we are with that particular contribution agreement. The other thing, or the other document that we were told PennDOT would want, was the standard representations by the township that it would comply with certain fairness and non-discriminatory practices that you see in every contract with a Commonwealth agency. So that's where we are, Ms. D. I'm happy to try to answer any questions, but procedurally, we continue to work with PennDOT to get that final agreement accepted by them, because you've already signed one and sent it up.
Just shake some cages or whatever the right word is to get them to move a little faster.
I will rattle some cages. Yes, ma'am.
If any, it's you, Guy. You can't go yet. You have to go and talk to us about stormwater infiltration pits. And I think just really an update on what's going on with the road program. It's a nice report that you put in the book. So I'll turn it over to you again, and Jeff.
All right, I would say basically the scope of the road program for this year that we started out with got altered slightly, but the scope that we ended up wanting to have implemented is fully implemented at this point. And we were a little bit later getting our bids out than what we were last year, but we ended up getting the work done much faster this year. So, and I think part of that is that we are in the process of developing a very good rapport with certain contractors, and fortunately, that contractor was the winning bidder, the only bidder, but the winning bidder, and they were able to juggle their schedule and get our work done pretty quickly. We do have some progress to report on the two large stormwater projects, the one at Thompson Estates and the one at Southview Estates. Thompson Estates, we went out and had it probed to locate the corners and found out that it really was as big as what the plan said. It was like 40 some by 160 or something like that. So it is a huge subsurface infiltration system. And then we did infiltration testing adjacent to the bed and determined that the infiltration rate in virgin soils alongside the bed are adequate to support the type of infiltration system that was put in originally. Now, that doesn't mean that the one in the bed it's there now is good, because it could be clogged from the fact that it's had silt flowing into it for 30 years since it was originally installed. So I'm going to be working next week, and I told Jeff by the end of the month I would have him a first cut at a bid package for Thompson Estates. Similarly with Southview Estates, we did do some exploratory work. We did not do infiltration testing, but we did some digging, cleared the inlet, cleared the pipes into the bed, and determined that all the pipes basically are rusted out. And that one indeed needs to be replaced. So I will also be preparing a bid package for that one. That one is probably a fourth the size, maybe even smaller than that, like a fifth the size of the other one. I would suggest, and we can make this determination after we see both bid packages, and normally what I do in my bid packages, I will throw in a cost estimate. I'll do a bid form that gives all the quantities and a place for the bidders to put in the rates and then calculate the total cost for the job. I will take a shot at putting those rates in and giving you a cost estimate for those two projects. I suspect that the Thompson Estate ones is going to be much larger in cost, and the duration of the project is going to be much longer. My suggestion based on that assumption is that we would go ahead and advertise and bid and try to award a contract for Southview Estates because it's smaller and could be, even if we went into the fall, into even November, you could still put that one in and get grass to grow and have it stabilized for the winter. Thompson Estates is going to be one where we want to have some exploratory digging as we go, starting at the inlet, the point where it comes into the dry well and into the infiltration bed from the manhole, and start trying to chase where there might be sediment deposition that's caused the infiltration to stop working. And if we can get to a point where, oh gee, we can stop here and not do any more excavation because now everything looks like it's functioning. It's just not getting to that point because of the failure up to that point. We might be able to stop. So that one's going to be a little bit more tricky bid package. It's going to be a little bit more tricky to implement. And if we have to do the whole thing, I could see that taking 6 to 8 weeks to complete. So I don't want to start that this fall, based on what we know right now.
You want to or you don't want to? You want to?
Don't.
I'm like 90% sure at this point that the recommendation right now would be to move forward with Southview Estates, get that one bid, get that one done, and then come back in the spring and do the other one. Now, maybe we would start bidding in January or something like that, so we were ready to go as soon as we don't get frozen ground anymore, but as soon as we get decent weather in March or something like that, we can even start on that. The other thing that bothers me right now is I know Penn Township just did a retrofit project and only got one bidder, and they only got one bidder because it was a contractor that did other work for them, and they kind of twisted his arm to bid on it. And then I put out a bid for a retrofit project on a basin in Upper Oxford Township, and we got no bids. So right now, for some reason, these projects like that are just not being. I think people are busy with things they've got to get wrapped up before the end of this season, and they're not taking on these jobs.
Question for Jess. Do we have money? For this? Is it I can't remember what's in the budget.
Yes, we do. We had talked about this before, and Ron can correct me. He had provided estimates when we've talked previously with the board earlier this year. And Ron, we're still within the estimates that you had proposed earlier, correct?
I haven't seen anything that changes what those estimates would be based on what we've seen with our infiltration testing and exploratory diggings, but certainly those numbers probably have gone up a little bit. I know you turn on the TV and they're constantly arguing about whether inflation's up or down, the costs are up or down or not, but my experience on anything I've bid, it's higher now than it was 3 or 4 months ago, even.
And that's for both projects?
That would be for the
Included.
project.
Okay.
So I mean, that could be a reason maybe for trying to go ahead and bid both of them and see if we can get somebody locked in.
Okay.
Even if they did the work next spring, but then that's all the more reason somebody's not going to want to bid it. They're not going to want to bid now, not knowing what the prices are.
I would recommend, Ron, we just do Southview Estates and do Thompson Estates in the spring.
Yeah.
That's my recommendation.
It all sounds promising, and just congratulations to the team on a successful road program. That was fantastic. And I know the Thompson Estate and the Southview Estate, you've been thinking about that for years. So it's nice just to start that work. All right, excellent. All right, Ron, thank you so much for working with us, and we truly appreciate your effort. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome.
Okay.
All
I'm
right,
gonna,
Travis,
okay,
if
go
okay,
ahead.
Don, I'll sign off then.
Please have a great vacation.
All right, thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Ron.
All right. I want to just turn to the audit report. So I know this nice gentleman is, maybe introduce yourself and just summarize what you found, but we do appreciate your work.
My name's Carl Hogan with the firm of BBD. I don't know if Jeff was aware, I think Melissa, but our firm recently merged with another firm. So we're going to have, the same people and so forth, but just a different name on the audit report. So it'll still be me, Kyle, and the rest of the team. So, but tonight what I did is I put together just a couple slides because of the report that you guys issue for the state. It's kind of hard to present, in terms of, it's not very user friendly to put it at least. I mean, it's the bare minimum that you need to do as a municipality, and your financial institutions and your lenders do accept it. So, are we gonna put it on the screen, Jeff, or? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. 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 Worked hard on it. Yeah. Yes, I just put 5 slides together just to kind of summarize everything, but obviously the most important thing is on pages, I think it might go 1 and 2, we have our independent auditors report, basically stating that the numbers that were presented to us by management for the year ended December 31st, 2023 were fairly presented. We were finished a couple months ago, and I think he just recently reached out to us to come out here and to kind of summarize the results of our audit. The independent auditors report, it's a boilerplate report in terms of meaning that there's no modifications to the report. You don't want any modifications to your auditor's report. Outlines management's responsibilities, our responsibilities. Basically, the most important thing is the numbers being presented in the audit report are in accordance as required by the Department of Community and Economic Development. So there's 3 major funds that are summarized within your DCED report. Some of them have consolidated funds within them, but the major fund is your general fund for the year ended December 31st, 2023. Once again, kind of in line with previous years, you had a strong revenue year. A lot of municipalities continue to see strong revenue years, in particular as it relates to earned income taxes, real estate taxes. You had some transfer taxes kind of fell off a little bit, but in 2023, also you had the interest income that you didn't anticipate when you went through the budget process. So overall, when you had your revenues, $1.8 million, expenditures, $1 million, for excess of almost $800,000, but there's a budget line items that are built into your general fund to transfer funds to other funds. So in the current year, you budgeted about $700,000 of different transfers over to other funds. The biggest one being the $500,000 over to the capital projects fund for your road program, and we'll see that on the next slide. So at the end of the day, once you take those transfers into account, the change in the fund balance was about 65,000. You had about 868,000 at the beginning of the year, and then the ending fund balance 933 as of December 31st, 2023. The other major fund within the DCD report is your capital projects fund. This is made up of 2 distinct funds. You have your capital reserve fund and your capital projects fund. There was 2 transfers that were budgeted during the current year, one to the capital projects fund for your road program, and then also there was a budget transfer over to the capital reserve program of about $50,000, of which none of that was used. So as you can see, your capital projects fund was kind of getting depleted at the end of 2022. You added the 500,000, spent some for the road program, and there's 233,000 left as of December 31st, 2023. And then the last fund is the smallest, but has the most funds within it, and this is our special revenue fund on the next slide. So these are specific allocations that are made primarily related to real estate tax allocations. So during your budget process, you'll make specific allocations to your real estate taxes for specific purposes, EMS, fire, open space, impact fees. Also within this fund, we put any kind of special intergovernmental revenues that are received that are restricted for a specific purpose. So in the case of the township, you still had some ARPA funding that was expended at the end, that was expended the rest rest of it during the year. And then also your annual appropriation through PennDOT for the state liquid fuels fund. So as we kind of look at this, overall, it's smaller in terms of, the general fund and the capital projects fund. And we're gonna get that column for the ARPA fund will kind of fall off. So there was $400,000 in the special revenue funds. And, you spent the ARPA funds on some stormwater sewer projects during the year. So there's $150,000 left in these funds. And it's kind of intended to work that way. You put out a specific allocation, knowing what that budget's going to be for your EMS, for your fire, and then it kind of, there's just a small balance remaining at the end of the year. So typically what you allocate for real estate taxes is spent during the year, and your fund balance will be typically, approaching, if not zero at year end.
Just a couple comments. One is, as far as I know, we need, like, we have an open space fund, but the amount of money in it doesn't pay for what we need. There's a loan that needs to be paid for. So
Yeah, correct.
So I just want the public to know, we don't have a lot of extra money floating around. It's really, we have a loan, a couple $1 million, I think, and that we need
And the appropriation.
right, that we need to pay. And the other thing, you just suffered through our MS4 conversation. There's a lot of that cost is not ever going to go away.
Yeah.
Every 5 years, we're going to have 500,000, whatever the number is that we're going to have to come up. So what we're trying to do is get in front of it. And that's some of this money that's being put aside to deal with this MS4 requirements that we have no choice about, but we don't want to raise anybody's taxes. So we're trying to bank some of that money. And
the theme too seems to be in Chester County too, the increasing cost for EMS and fire just across the board has been, everybody's been having the
right.
same
And
struggle.
we need it, we want it, we'll pay for it, but we have to get it from somewhere.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the last page, just to kind of summarize some of the other, parts of the audit report. Obviously, there was no findings. Obviously, there's the limitations that we discussed, even when we went through the RFP process with internal controls, but, active board oversight, the office does a nice job in terms of, segregating as they can, internal controls related to financial reporting and compliance with your different grants. Like I said before, this report was filed with the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development as required. There's a debt statement in there, and the township has one piece of debt, the general obligation bond of 2008. Its balance is $2.3 million at the end of the last year, and it's scheduled to mature in 2039. Statement of capital expenditures. So you're also required to report any kind of major capital expenditures. And with the theme here, the storm sewer improvements that were made, plus the road projects were reported to the state in your report. Also, just to kind of give you an idea of what we do, this is a cash basis, financial statement that we're putting out. So not only do we test your cash and confirm the cash with the bank, also we test for any kind of material reconciling items if you have outstanding checks and so forth. But we're able to implement, just because of the nature of the revenue, very effective audit procedures related to revenue. We're able to send out third-party confirmations to your EIT collector, your tax collector, and able to confirm almost 80% of your revenue that comes into the district and all those funds, or into the township and all those funds. So it makes us, makes our job easier being able to get that. The strongest form of audit procedure is a third-party confirmation from a third party, not internally, to kind of confirm your revenue. Testing controls we performed over your cash disbursements and payroll. Obviously, they're your two biggest cycles. So what we do is, I think we select anywhere from 20 to 40 payroll transactions and cash disbursement transactions. And then what we do is we kind of go through your cycle to make sure they follow the proper internal controls. We can't obviously look at everything, but we pick those. But in addition, we look at your capital expenditures and bigger expenditures on top of looking at the controls over maybe some smaller expenditures. And then finally, there's various tests of compliance over some grants that you may have on an annual basis. I know we're not as tough as the liquid fuels auditors, but we kind of double up on what they do. Typically, they're usually here before us. They could get very picky. State pension aid and the volunteer fire relief funds, we want to make sure that when you get those monies, they get turned over to the state within the 30 days within you receive them. And then also we test your allocation, your real estate taxes, say, hey, here's what we levied on an annual basis. We made sure that it got in the proper bucket, general fund and on all your special revenue funds. So, like I said, it's, I think we're able to implement some, effective procedures and, get to the result that you want to get to.
Carl, thank
You're
you.
impressed, right?
No, I read the audit, but I also really like the summary that you put together. I hope we can get a copy of that too.
Oh, yeah, no
Um,
problem.
And then one thing you said was that you confirmed, third party confirmed about 80% of our revenue. Can you tell me, do you know about what percentage of your confirmations came back?
Oh, they all come back because we know
They all come-
your tax collector and then you have
Okay.
the
So 100% came back?
Well, once you do the earned income taxes and stuff, that's a big chunk of it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
real estate taxes and
Okay.
the transfer taxes, delinquent taxes, they all say, so we have contacts, we just email them to them and they just email them back to us. So
Yeah, that's good. I know
They
that
do-
sometimes the
yeah.
third parties don't come back.
Well,
That's what I
when
said.
you're dealing with like an individual customer or something like that, if it was a residential person, maybe not. If they owe you money, they're not sending it back saying, yeah, I owe you that money. So it's like, it's just more of just the revenue. So there's no receivables
Right.
and stuff like that. So. But they
Yeah,
all
that's
come back.
great.
Yep.
Thank you.
DLC for us.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That's all I had.
Yeah.
It's the first time anyone's ever taken
That's
us through
nice.
like this. It's just a nice job. Nice job.
Very much appreciated.
Yeah, and I think we always want to call out Melissa. You've worked with, she's
Yeah.
amazing. So, we're really proud of her and,
It just doesn't really help. I mean, the report that the state, I mean, that's the bare minimum. I mean, the cost benefit of you guys doing generally accepted accounting principles just isn't worth it, just like the other local municipalities. So I was just trying to lay it out in a way that, makes it kind of show it. Yeah, yeah. So, yep, yep. Oh, believe me, I'm hungry. All right.
Okay, well, too bad Melissa wasn't here to hear that compliment, but she is our wonderful money keeper. So here is our June treasurer's report. This is a comprehensive monthly report of the township financials for the month of June 2024 and year to date. The June 2024 treasurer's report includes the following disbursements: the general fund with disbursements and transfers of $107,889.01. The Parks and Rec Fund with disbursements of $10,109.91. The Open Space Fund with disbursements of $5,350.16. The Capital Reserve Fund with disbursements of $0. The Emergency Services Fund with disbursements of $76,482.07. The Fire Hydrant Fund with disbursements of $580.80, leaving a balance in all funds totaling $2,816,222.83. I propose a motion for the board that the board approve the June 2024 treasurer's report as presented by Dawn Dowling. May I have a second?
I'll second that.
Donna, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, motion passes 4-0. And then I will go on to the July treasurer's report. This is a comprehensive monthly report of the township financials for the month of July 2024 and year to date. The July 2024 treasurer's report includes the following disbursements: the general fund with disbursements and transfers of $132,526.19. The Park and Recreation Fund with disbursements of $7,046.22. The Open Space Fund with disbursements of $5,350.16. The Capital Reserve Fund with disbursements of $77,244.38. The Emergency Services Fund with disbursements of $0. The Fire Hydrant Fund with disbursements of $580.80, leaving a balance in all funds totaling $2,475,676. I make a motion that the board approve the July 2024 treasurer's report as presented by Dawn Dowling. I have a second. Thank you, Jim. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, motion carries 4-0. Okay,
Okay, that brings us to the June and July zoning officers report. These reports were compiled by the Township Zoning Officer, Mark Gordon. In the month of June 2024, 8 permits were issued, $3,647.91 in permit fees were collected, $0 in miscellaneous fees, $0 in recreation and open space fees, and $0 in impact fees were collected. 20 inspections were performed. In the month of July 2024, 16 permits were issued, $11,705.59 in permit fees were collected, $0 in miscellaneous fees, $0 in recreation and open space fees, $0 in impact fees were collected, and 12 inspections were performed. Next is the Parks, Recs, and Open Space report. Hello. Yeah. Right-hand button with the person on it. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Congratulations on
Thank
your.
you. Thank you. So I don't know exactly what I'm doing, but I will start off with clearly Mary Hanley. I was voted the chair now for the pro board. Thank you. The first thing I'm going to do is to save and introduce Mr. Liam Kelly. He is our Boy Scout who did the trail markers over at Crossin. So do you want to be presenting tonight, right? Yeah.
You're on, young man, so just tell me when to flip to the next slide.
I think that's the last slide. Yeah, okay. Okay. So my goal for today is just to show the outcome of my project. So pretty much pictures, how much time it took, and how much money we ended up spending. Next slide. So that is the kiosk that I built, and then an example of one of the posts. The map has white dots, which are all the posts on it, and the yellow is the kiosk. Next. Okay, next. So I did 2 work days with my my scout troop, and it took 87 hours about, including all the work I did. There's about 7 scouts, 2 brothers, and 5 adults during the 2 days. And then in the end, the township's total was $257.36. Yeah. Okay, next.
We are very excited to have this done and I think Mary, the goal is to have this everywhere, right? To take it into all the trails. So you really set a high standard and we're so thankful that you came to us with this project. It looks great. Have you gotten your Eagle Scout? I don't know, would they give you a scarf or a badge or?
Oh, no, I went to one of those. That's a service.
Okay. Has it happened yet or is it gonna happen soon?
Just one more meeting, and I got it.
I have another question. How did you get your 2 brothers to help you?
Okay. The one was someone else's brother.
Okay.
And the other one was my brother was forced, I guess.
And he's honest.
It's good that you worked together and got it done. Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, much appreciated, Liam. Thanks. We can't wait to go see it. I haven't been out there yet, so.
Well, and I have to say, I talked to Dave earlier this week and he said he is just, well, he put it in the email that he was just so excited that the park is just really starting to come together and be professional, and we're having some really nice stuff done in the park now.
And Andrea Roberts and I had walked through with our Eagle Scout to be, and he really should be proud of himself. He did a great job.
Hey, Liam, I do have 2 quick questions. Is the old kiosk still there? That wasn't removed, was it? It's still there. Okay. I mean, we probably would remove that. And then how deep did the post go in the ground? 1 foot per post. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I just was wondering. Yeah, thank you.
Speaking of the park, I have the park map coming up, hopefully. And I have some questions for you guys. All right, let's wait for it.
Yeah. I'm getting there.
Over, yeah.
Oh.
There we go. Thanks. All right. I guess my first question is, are we making one map? That's it, one representation of both parks?
When you say both parts, you mean?
The preserve and the park, I'm sorry, yeah.
That's fine.
Yes, okay. And then also background for trails. So the trails colors in Franklin are set, obviously. So we have to keep those trails that color. There's trails that Matt Thompson did. Matt Thompson, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That he ran, and I have yeah, here you go. I laid that over the existing map that you have, and it pretty much lays the same. The one thing, another question I have, which is, it's the fourth one. Okay, I don't know how to point. So if you go down to the southeast, right? The southeast most, yes, thank you. There is no trail entry there. Well, I mean, there is a trail entry there, but it's not mapped, and it is told that it is too steep. Originally it was, I don't know originally, Lord only knows, but there was talk of a switchback kind of thing going in there. My only concern about there not being access there is you'd have to go all the way to the north part of the park to get down to that location.
I thought there was one, there's two entries there. One was, I don't have the cursor, but one was in the middle near that, almost near where this green trail goes, that little.
Yeah.
I thought there was one here and there was one here.
Yeah, that's the one that's too steep right there.
Right.
Mhm.
So the one here stays, if that is there still. It stays open.
It is still there, but it was one that we weren't going to regularly maintain unless we needed to get equipment down there. The one up top here is very steep. And we'll let Matt talk about both of those. Just use the mouse.
Okay, so yeah, this trail here, I think it needs to go away, or we need to.
Mine in your way.
Sorry.
Mine in your way.
So the southeast corner. Alright. So there is a trail currently that comes up here, but it's very steep. Erosion's a big problem. So at this point, I would say just let it, it's not, just go away. At some point, I think, you're probably right. It probably would be nice to connect somehow up to this top parking lot, but it should be some sort of switchback up there, just to alleviate, get it off the fall line. You don't want water running straight now. This trail up here that would access down to the big bridge, which would be kind of in this area. Again, like Jeff said, it's there. If I'm out there maintaining it, I'm probably not gonna maintain it. But if we ever really needed to get down to that big bridge, it could be very easily opened back up. And we could get down in there. And then there's the other one that kind of take it down to the old posts that we used to get the millings out.
Yeah.
I think that one, let's just let that one go away.
That was-
It's not necessary. So anyway, I think at this time, if you're doing your math, don't include this one.
No, he's talking about that.
This one doesn't, you know, I would just kind of go with what's here personally.
But what about accessibility?
Well, you're right.
It's not
I mean,
just for bikes.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying, but even walking up and down, I don't, it's.
I take it with the kids.
It's, but it's.
It-
I mean,
It's very true.
if you want it in there, I mean, currently it's there, so I mean, it could be maintained, it's just very steep, I mean, it's just a steep trail.
Yeah, so frogs like to lay there in the spring.
Yeah, so.
So Mary, can I?
The trail itself.
I know that Dave's not here and I know he didn't want that trail either. Like we walked it too together and he didn't want it either. But if you have a proposal to, like, now's the time, right? We're doing these now. If you have a proposal to do some kind of switchback or something, maybe we should get out there and take a look. We can do.
Certainly, yeah. I mean, I think you're right, it's nice, it would be nice to have access to the parking lot.
Yeah.
I just. So.
But the one thing we need to keep in mind, this is a living document that will change over time. So
I thought we were saying, no, we're trying to make this a final
No.
document and that's it, you know?
no, I know. We had talked about not having this, but my thing is trying to help Mary out here. There is a chance at some point, years future, it may change. I'm not advocating it, but it's something that, you know, I think we have a pretty good eye on
I
right
think the
now.
issue is what the future is. So, you know, we need to tell Mary what we're looking at for like the next, say, 3 years, 3 or 4 years, right? It's not something we're gonna change in 6 months. Because if it is, we should do it. We should
Yeah, we should.
make that agreement now. So Mary, I don't know how strongly you feel about it. Is this something you want to bring to Dave? Because I don't feel comfortable making any decisions without Dave, right?
No.
No, he was strongly,
Yeah.
you know, he was strongly involved.
I was not involved in it, so I don't know details. But I do know, that Paul Overton and I had spoken about this trail a long time ago, actually. And, if you go back to my map. See, it is drawn in there as a switchback. That doesn't exist right there in that little section down there.
Yes, so it wouldn't be a good idea to put it in there if it doesn't exist.
But there's no access down there. That's my only concern, is there's no access.
I have no problem, but I mean, I can switch back a trail in there. I'm not trying to say, I'm just saying the current trail that's there.
Oh, I agree with
Is
you.
unsustainable, so if it either that one needs to go away and we build something new, you know, I have no problem, I'll put.
Isn't there already a switchback right there?
It's too steep
Okay.
and erosion problems right now.
Okay.
Making this decision without Dave. So what I would suggest, and you guys help me out, is that we bring it back.
Yeah.
Put a proposal together and don't even wait till the next meeting, just send it in an email.
Right.
And that way we have an answer for you the next meeting, so you know what to
And we
do.
have our workshop meetings and executive
Right.
meetings and stuff. So
And-
we can.
And if he decides to do it, then you keep it in your map. And it doesn't necessarily have to be done, like, we'll try to get it done as soon as we can, right, Matt? If he, but I just don't feel comfortable. Dave's been all over this. I know you have too, but
We're also gonna have a service project out there between now and before the fall festival. So that might be a day. That might be a day. Yeah, but that might be a day that, you know, some of us are there and maybe we can take a walk and look at it.
Well, let's get through it. Let's do it.
Okay. Background trips. Do we want the gray trails to be there? I say we should keep them there, but maybe make them lighter. Just so if you're walking, you're like, oh, there's a trail and you're not completely confused by it.
What's a gray trail? I'm sorry.
If you have, yeah, there you go, right in there. That is a trail that is just a gray trail.
It's not a.
It's not one of the mapped colored trails.
I thought that was good.
Or we're getting rid of all that, that's the point.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
So take the gray trails out.
yes.
Well,
No,
Hold on one sec.
Well,
The-
yeah, so it's, yeah.
The only thing I would say is, can I just point? So you have. Just gray, that should,
That's green.
that'll stay.
Yeah,
That's
some of them are
actually
gonna get moved around, so we
But
need to.
some of the other gray trails. Well, and actually.
That one right there is too, that
So
they're
you-
cutting from.
Matt, you're saying that,
Yeah,
That should be colored too.
so the,
There we
what
go.
you were just pointing at, oh, sorry.
That's this, that's
Just
green.
Make that green loop, make
Yeah.
that a loop.
Yeah. So, and again, I'm not trying to, but this is the one that I want to map, right? So to me, these are the ones that are sustainable. And the ones that are gray that, you know,
they're not sustainable.
they're, it's, that's how, yeah. Cause some of them go down in the swamp and all that, so that's why I kind of, you know. This is the one, and then like, you know, this is the switchbacks that we're abandoning.
Mm-hmm, yeah, I think those
We're
are.
actually gonna abandon that one too, through the meadow. Cause the blue one is now the new entrance.
Now, Matt, you did that to keep people out of the parking lot for safety, correct? We
Yeah.
agreed on that.
Yeah, so we we routed around so that, you know, a lot of times. William's one of them, that all vendors are in there practicing, but they were always cutting through that parking lot, so just. So anyway, like I said, this is kind of what I was considering would be the final trails. So.
Is that in line with what you have? Cause I'm wondering, we can go one or two ways. We can say, Matt, take Mary's map and comment on it. Or Mary, take Matt's.
I feel like way to show you something, is that okay, or?
Yeah, no, I don't help you at all, but yeah.
Yeah.
We just gotta make sure colors,
Right.
colors.
It's easier to do with her, like, sit over that.
I can help out, so.
Okay, so I have it in my program, I just have these over this.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is all post.
Yeah.
That's gonna stay.
Yeah.
This is gonna turn to this, the
Yeah.
green is gonna stay with this.
Yeah.
This is what here.
That's there for this.
Oh, I know it's going.
Right
Okay,
there.
so it stays, so it's kind of three trails.
I still, I still was, I still was.
Orange is, that's paved.
Right, it's pretty brown.
That's great, yeah, you jump on it.
Yeah.
It's perfect. So I guess that's probably what's throwing you off, like, this is kind of loop, right? Like,
Okay.
you know, so, yeah, you can take on the table.
Friday.
Oh, no, I That will have to be turned to, yes, that gray. That gray is the suggestion. No. It's okay.
So. At this point, so I would say this like, maybe out. Deep red, and then kind of like. Then you know what I mean, like, but to me, it's like, keeping it consistent with your waterlands, then you can just grab all of it, you have, you know, on the kiosk, you can say red 3 miles.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I have it down here.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, this is a map that's.
yeah. Yeah, we can't.
Change the colors in Franklin.
Yeah.
We can, we just have to pop things.
No, we're not doing.
No, we're not doing that.
You need this.
This in here is gonna get turned in. This is a mess, and then up here is a mess. So these two sections are gonna have to be taken in, just this will be on here.
Yeah.
In
Yeah,
these two
so-
sections.
Some of the problem is like a lot of this gray is now, it jumbled it
Yeah.
up, right?
Yeah.
So that's, when if you took this and laid it over this, it would just look way too confusing.
So,
Yeah.
so you understand it now? I mean, I guess, okay, good. Do you know what you want to do? Okay.
I mean, I definitely wanna talk to Dave about the switchback down here,
Please do.
but other than that, I mean,
So I would just put a proposal and he'll bring it to the next meeting. So Dave can't make the decision by himself, but you present it to him. And then we'll get to talk about it at the next meeting and then give you an answer. So you don't have to wait another month again
Okay.
before you finish it. But you want this. That's what I hear. Okay.
You too.
It seems to make sense. I mean,
yeah.
I'm not saying.
Get you down
it shouldn't
here.
be there, I'm just saying that.
Right. That makes perfect sense. And I want to see what he says. I mean, I don't care.
I don't, if there's already one there now, it's just.
All right, Mary, keep going. We're making progress.
I know, I'm so sorry. All right, I have one more math question, and that is if you bring up mine one more time.
I'm trying.
Okay, can you by chance zoom in on the inset? Is that a? Okay, see how the trails come into the parking lot? So the one on the west, right there, that's done. I believe there is a
Yes.
trail mark there. So that I have to keep that. But on the other side, it's gonna be completely different because of that switchback now. But do you want the trails to come all the way up to the parking lot like that? Or no, because it's the same trail, like,
I don't think the extension, like,
Mhm.
where that. It is like, yeah, that extension to the parking lot doesn't have to be colored.
okay, okay.
But I guess eventually when we do the posts. There'll probably be one right up where the loops, right up where the bottom loop starts.
Yeah.
Up there.
Mm-hmm. So, okay. All right, moving on from the map into new business. Volunteer Day, you heard Jim Johnson here talk about that. We're gonna be working with the township, the pro, the FSA. We're gonna try to get everybody together. The workday we originally started, planned was Saturday the 10th, but it was Debbie, I think, came through.
Yeah.
So that was the end of that, yeah. So we're gonna try for the 7th of September, which is a week before Fall Fest. So hoping we're gonna get a list of things to do that are like needs to get done for Fall Fest and try to knock those out.
Yeah, and Matt Thompson and Vellamio may be joining us that day too.
Okay. And then there will be more information about the volunteer day come out once it's all settled. There is a sign language sign that Sir Magnus here wants on the playground, and I think it's an awesome idea. People in the pro also think it's an awesome idea. It's a sign that would have literally like, you know, friend, I don't know if they are, nice to meet you, like that kind of thing. Like, do you want to play? So that it could be like kind of an inclusive playground. So that is, Bob is checking prices for signs on that at the moment. And then we were talking about, well, I'll actually skip here. I'm gonna jump to subcommittees just to kind of explain the Meadows thing. So we are gonna do subcommittees now, which we did with like the mini Meadow. We had a mini Meadow meeting. I love alliteration, you'll learn that. So we are getting a group of the smaller people, that's a smaller group to get things done, because it's like we can't accomplish anything in a meeting with so many people. So this way it's like special interest and you can focus on what you really have an interest in. So that'll bring me back to the meadow improvements, and BOS member Dawn here has been working on it for about 3 years. There's the with Betsy. And so it's pretty much mimicked after the Nickel Park meadow is what we want to go for. And to start off, we're looking at the 2 different meadows in Crossan Park, which is the front meadow where is like the Bluebird Trail is, and then there's the lower meadow, which I actually I'm not quite sure where the lower meadow is. But so we're working on getting information from Mr. Weeds Inc. Weeds Inc.
So
'cause-
Dawn, you were gonna start one at a time, right? One meadow.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay.
And just so I'll jump in here real quick. The meadow from the behind, if you're standing in front of the tennis courts and the Bluebird boxes are right there and it goes down to Betsy's house. That's what we consider a mini meadow. And we said, if it's grass. And we went to projects and I got certified with the thing, and you really can't build the meadow like they have over at Nickel Park unless you strip out that grass. And there's different ways to do it. There's different, and so what we're gonna do, Weeds Inc. was the people that we went to the 3 years ago, a meadow project, and they were the people that presented. And they're the people that did Nichols Park. And I've talked to Shane Morgan, and she's the key player, and she knew Greg, and so I'm getting all the ducks in a row. So we're gonna have them come out and give us ideas, and they do it free, estimates. So we will come out, have them go out, and I've put in a call to them already, but haven't heard back. But yeah, we, the healing garden is set up so that people can go in and say, wow, I could plant these in my yard. Well, we want the meadow to be the same thing. And if it's a mini meadow, Jeff's already told me it's just less than an acre. So anybody that has less than an acre in their yard that wants to do it, this can be a demonstration meadow, which I think would be super educational. So so we're headed that way. So we're gonna get all our ideas and, well, it takes years to do it. So, but we're gonna start doing our homework.
Okay, and then a couple more things. With the new chairman, we also voted in a new vice chair, and it was approved 6-0 because he voted for himself. Bob Mathis. And so additional topics would be the Bamshire Garden. I don't know if anyone's been over there. In front of Bamshire, Bob and the pro put up a nice garden, and it's flourishing. It's nice. And then just a wonderful thank you to Andrea Roberts for her awesome work over the last year.
Okay, I finally got hold of the three wonderful master gardener ladies. And one of them is a potter right from Landenberg. And one of them works over at the winery, Allie. There's Allie Bouchard. And there's Jenny Wood is the potter who's going to be at our fall festival. And Emma Hahn, I think. And they are getting their certification as master gardeners. They can't weed. Don't ask me why, but there's rules and regulations about master gardeners, but they can lead volunteers. So all we have to do is do volunteers. What we have to worry about is we can't just let anybody go in and weed because it's all the plants, and most people don't know what all those plants are. So we have to have supervision. And this summer, everybody knows was a horrible summer. But anyway, these ladies have stepped forward. I had them over to the garden. They're very excited about it. They can do classes for free. And they've offered to help with the plant swap so far. And they'll go in and we'll even get plants out of our garden to do at the plant swap. And they're going to help at the plant swap. So we're real excited. And then one other thing, story time is in full bloom over in August, every Friday in August at 10, Friday at 10. And it was packed. It was just packed last week. It was so exciting. And then I went over and I was working in the garden, and a little boy came over and he had his mom in tow, and he had his little brother and a baby. And his mother said he wanted to bring me over and show me the secret garden he found. He found it last week with his dad. I said, that's what makes it worthwhile. I said, well, we have butterflies and bees and all that stuff. I said, would you like to do classes? Well, I don't like bees. I said, well, these are good bees. So I said, if we have a class, you can learn about the bees. They thought that was great. So good report from the garden.
Good.
Well, I'm going to let my coordinator extraordinaire fill us in, and Jeff and Stacy and I and Veronica and Stefan have been working feverishly, and we were going to go over last Friday and it poured. So we have to go, Friday before. So we're going this Friday to finish up the map.
Yes, it was Debbie again that struck. So first and foremost, my name is Stacy Hollis. I'm the township secretary, and I'm happy to give you a Fall Fest update. I want to thank all of our very generous and talented people in the community who are participating. I'm talking about our sponsors, our vendors, and our volunteers. We've got some really great residents in the community that are helping to contribute to making this a really fantastic day. So on behalf of the planning committee, we are going to be celebrating agriculture on September 14th, Saturday at noon. So please come on out. We have a terrific day. We're going to be filled with fantastic farm equipment displays. We're going to have our plant swap with free seeds while supplies last. We're going to have live band performances. We're going to have shopping and informational booths. We're up to 40 right now. So tons of exciting things for the kids, including moon bounces, obstacle courses, corn maze. We've got a petting zoo now, which is new this year. We also have mechanical bull rides, and we also have hay rides. So we've got adventurous to more mellow, so something for everyone. We're gonna do it all.
We're gonna try it and do it all.
We're bringing back the pumpkin decorating station with free pumpkins again, while supplies last. We also have the free raffle tickets that we'll be giving out, and Jeff has secured another beautiful Lowe's grill that we'll be auctioning off or raffling off, as well as many more things. We're also going to get free popsicles this year, sponsored by Food Lion. So come out and get your free popsicle, bomb pops. A host of delicious food vendors. So we're going to be selling barbecue, cheesesteaks and subs or hoagies, whatever you like to call them, as well as tasty treats like hand-dipped ice cream, popcorn, and fresh coffee. We're also this year going to be selling Wine by the Glass by Paradox Vineyards and 1723 are two of our local township vineyards. So come and celebrate that. Come hungry and celebrate these wonderful businesses in our community. Like Dawn had mentioned, we're going to be meeting this Friday to go and finalize the layout with our friend Mary from the Pro. We're going to get a nice map, so everyone's going to be informed and it's going to be nice and detailed. So I'll be communicating that once that's finalized. And we're in our final week, so September 14th, it's coming up fast. So we're just pushing for more volunteers. So get out there, volunteer with your friends, your family members, your neighbors. It's a great opportunity to get out and bond with the community. We had so much fun last year, and it's nice.
And we finally roped the Boy Scouts back in. So we've got some Boy Scouts coming and helping us, and
Yes.
Girl Scouts are coming and helping us. And so we've got some really cool stuff going to happen.
It's going to be a great day. So come on out September 14th, and I'm going to hand it over to Jeff and Matt. We've got other exciting things as well, if you can imagine.
Matt this year has added an event.
Yeah, so Velo Me is going to put on a free 5K the morning of the of Fall Fest. We're currently at 15 people signed up. We're hoping that the numbers jump up a little bit. A lot of times in the past doing these events, people wait to see what the weather's going to be. We do have the opportunity for people to make a donation if they want. You know, it's free, but make a donation. I think we're up to $30 donations. Baby steps. And then the Velo Me trailer will be out there again this year to utilize, our arrows and whatever you need out of there. So.
It's a 5K. Are we walking or biking?
You can do it. No, it's a run. Sorry,
it's a
5K
run.
run. Sorry. So it's a run, walk, whatever you want to turn it into. And then like last year, what I did, I had the trail marked last year with the arrows, and I encouraged people to come out, bring their bikes, and they could ride. This year, I think I did it last year as well. I encouraged them to check out the trail that took you up to Paradox.
Yeah.
And if they came and talked to me before they went up, I gave them a special code and they got a discount on a drink. They got a happy hour pricing on drinks. So anyway,
What time is the race?
I think it's scheduled for 9.
Yes.
9 a.m.
But I do want to say too, we've developed a promotional video for Facebook. And looking at the statistics, at least, I'm still very hopeful we've had 230 people look at the video for the promotion for it. So hopefully Matt gets swamped
And
every day.
VeloMe has, I think, 400 people in our email lists. And so we send a blast out to, from past events. So
Yes, Jeff and I have been quite busy with our Facebook posts, so make sure if you're on Facebook, give us a like, share it with your friends, get the word out.
Well, and also I would be remiss if I didn't tell about Gary Moore and Travel More Often. He does a blog, I guess, and so he's going to do a podcast, and he's going to do a podcast from up there, and he's going to talk to the different vendors. Stacy has a whole list of what he can talk about, and he's going to have his own tent with good microphones so that people will be able to hear stuff. And then, of course, we've got our super music group.
But just a couple more things to add. I've been talking with New Bolton Veterinary Center for months and the Center for Dairy Excellence. So they've come alive the past couple of days. So they will both have tents. We'll have dairy ambassadors for the Center of Dairy Excellence. They're going to be bringing kits for kids to make butter on site, coloring pages.
We might have some royalty there.
New Bolton Center is gonna try and bring some neat props. One of them being a life-size and I'll call it a fake cow that you can take apart and look at the different pieces of it. So everyone seems excited.
We're gonna have some royalty there. I think the queen of the dairy
Dairy Queen, dairy ambassadors.
will be there.
So that'd be great. Anything you wanted to add? Anything for Matt on anything, so he can go home if he wants.
thanks.
Just a big thank you.
No problem.
While Matt is here, I think I told you individually, but just to let the public know. Old Post Trail was cut in this past Saturday in the rain. So it's something that the board had approved before, but it's a nice trail to walk right now, so it's available to the public.
I have a question. Are we gonna put a sign down there explaining what it is?
I always thought that would be a neat idea, just kind of like, and I know nothing about the history of it, but I think it would be cool on the one end, by the paved trail.
I've encouraged Mary Hanley to reach out to Paul Legacy and for us to develop something with that.
Okay, good.
See, I'm all about signs because I think everybody can learn something. And Andrea said all the time, when she takes her boys, she has them read every sign. And it just makes things look really, really like we know what we're doing.
We've got the Big Elk Creek Development Project Advisory Board Update by Antia Consueto. Really?
So this is going to be a recap of the July 1st task force meeting. Our next task force meeting is this coming Tuesday, where we will be continuing the discussion from the July 1st meeting. The July 1st meeting was a bit heated, and we didn't even get through half the agenda. We did do a site visit that afternoon, and Betsy was with me. We had a grand old time. We took tours of the facilities at White Clay Creek Preserve, and then they took us to 2 locations in Big Elk Creek that are potential building locations. One for bathrooms and another for their visitor center and shed maintenance area. So the pit toilet that they would like to put in would be on the Franklin side, down from where the current parking lot is now, tucked into a little area where there's trees, so you can't see it from the road. And they would be pit toilets. They would not be anything with electricity or any water or anything like that run to them. Now, the other location was down the farm road on the Elk Township side where you're bordering the Amish farm. And we went down that farm road and back the field a bit, and that's where they would like to put in their large visitor center, a large parking lot. They want trail access for trailheads, at least 5 trailheads coming out from there, utilizing the tunnel to take them over to the other side of the road. They want to put in more bathrooms there and a maintenance facility of some sort.
Big is this footprint?
They didn't say how large the footprint was. What we talked about in the meeting, which I'll get to in a minute, is the different sizes that they have now currently for visitor centers. The smallest visitor center they currently have is 2,400 square feet. The most common size is around 5,300 square feet. And then the largest visitor center they have is at Hickory Run State Park, and it's over 12,000 square feet. What they are looking to build is going to be probably somewhere between the 2,400 and 5,300 square foot buildings.
I was gonna say, they need to house the educational person that they've already hired.
Right, so let me get through my notes and then I'll answer questions, if that's okay.
Can I ask?
Yeah.
You just said, I just want to go back to something you said. You said 5 trailheads signs, 5 trailheads coming out in the Elk.
From the Elk side
The
to
Elk.
connect to other areas, yes.
None of those trails exist now, or some do?
They do not.
None of them do. Okay.
No, there are some trails that are, I forget what they called them, but apparently they don't like that they're there, that the locals have cut themselves and have used for
Yep.
decades. But obviously those will not be maintained or kept. So during the site visit, it was also brought up that a lot of people can't attend, so they're now going to offer weekend recap field visits hosted by Rob Campion, just to show people where the sites were that we discussed. Let's see. Rebecca Bowen from the Bureau of Forestry was the representative of the Natural Heritage Program, which are the people that put that map together that shows that the entire state park is in critical or supporting habitat. So she finally came to the meeting and took time to explain the map of core and supporting habitat and how that map is more of a planning focused tool and a broad strokes approach. And just to kind of mark areas of concern, but it's not meaning that the land is hands off or should not be built on, despite the recommendations in the report. PNDIs are, they're an environmental report that have to be done before they can build anything. Those are being completed as necessary for the park. They're very targeted and very specific environmental reports that will detail locations of known species of concern. They will not do these reports until they decide where to add infrastructure, and then the PNDI will be completed for that specific location. If nothing flags in that area, then they get a clearance for up to 2 years to build in that area. They're talking about facility program components that they want as part of the master plan to be restrooms or comfort stations, auxiliary pole buildings for maintenance, at least a 2 to 3 bay area. They want their visitor center to include an education and administrative offices, visitor contact, park administration, another comfort station, and staff support offices. Due to the distance, which is around 5 miles from White Clay Creek and the response time from White Clay Creek Preserve to Big Elk, they feel that those components are vital to Big Elk running smoothly. Now, we've done some homework and found that there are other state parks that are in similar proximity to one another, some of them as far as 15 miles apart or 20 miles apart, and they only have one visitor center for both of those parks. So the fact that they're saying that it's not feasible to have just the visitor center at the preserve, I don't understand how that argument holds up. They have already hired staff, and this is the big problem, for Big Elk Creek, including an educator, that they now have no space for them to work because there's no room at White Clay for them. So they need to build infrastructure to house the people that they've already got money to hire and have already hired. So they did a whole lot of cart before the horse planning. They did discuss a little bit about the permitting process during the field visit, but there was no mention of working with the townships or needing any township approvals. The comfort stations would be standalone buildings. They call them CXT concrete buildings, and you can actually look them up online, which is a pit-style toilet that has no water or electric. They can also remain open all year round and are easy to maintain. But the visitor center area would need utilities, so they're talking septic, a well, electric. The electric would be run underground from the road. And they're also talking about adding solar as time goes on. And I asked specifically if that meant that the solar panels would be put into the fields, and they said no, they would put them on top of the building and then build infrastructure in the parking lot to put like canopies over the parking lot with the panels on top of those. So then they said people love that because then their cars are parked in the shade. Most of the township, all of the township representatives and some of the other representatives in the task force strongly encouraged that this park not be considered like all the other parks, and that it be dedicated for trail use only with minimal, if any, infrastructure. We did discuss that we did not want DCNR coming into our townships and putting infrastructure there that would forever change the feel of the area, but rather leave it alone as much as possible. Toward the end of the meeting, when we were discussing maintenance facilities, I did bring up the idea that these buildings, if they're necessary, should fit the aesthetics of the area and honor the history of agriculture. So that a maintenance facility, if they have to have one, should not look like something you'd see on a golf course, but should look like a barn. That you could combine all of these, because where the parking lot exists now was a farm and a house and a barn. So why wouldn't we use an area that has already historically been built on? If we need all this infrastructure, build it somewhere where there's already been buildings. Build it where there was already a farmhouse and a barn, and make the visitor center encompass everything you need in that farmhouse. So that would be your bathroom, your visitor center, your education center, and your offices all in one. And then put a barn behind it like has historically been there for your maintenance shed, and let that be it. The concern we have is that they'll creep. So if we let them have that farmhouse and that barn, what's to say that later on down the line, they're not going to want something else somewhere else and just keep creeping with that infrastructure. So I would like to have them, and I don't think they'll do it, but I would like to, and a bunch of us are pushing for them to write an agreement that says if they get these things and these things are approved and we all let it go through, that's it, that they sign some sort of an agreement saying they will not build X, Y, and Z for at least 50 years or something like that to keep it from creeping. I doubt they'll do that, but we're hopeful that maybe they'll listen. They also had no clue that there was a house and a barn on the property at all to begin with. So that was new to them. I don't know how they didn't know, because the building was still standing 10 years ago. So I did print out I do have photos of the house and the barn that were there to take to the next meeting, because I think if they're going to insist that they have to have these buildings and they're not going to listen to the fact that spend the money at White Clay and improve those facilities, that's the best compromise we're going to get. Put it somewhere where there's already been buildings and not needlessly destroy space that's been open forever.
And Tia, it sounds like they're going to build a college campus up there to me.
Well,
That's what I just
so-
thought of the way you described it, right? Parking lots with solar panels on top, buildings all over the place.
So it was brought to our attention that, I don't know how to put this correctly. It is not a friendly park at this point. It's not accessible to enough people, and that having a visitor center there gives people a point of contact with which to be able to stop, have somewhere they know they can be, and park their car and talk to someone and find out where the trails are and all of that, because apparently it's very confusing going to White Clay because there's very narrow roads. It's not very well marked. and you can easily take a wrong turn and end up somewhere that you feel like you don't belong and that you're not welcome. So, and they also need a place where they can bring their students, and they'd like facilities to house at least 100 students at a time. So these are all the things that they're taking into consideration, all the needs that they want to meet. That there are people on the task force that agree with them that these are necessities, because it's, you know, we're a very rural area, and it can be very intimidating to people to come out to this rural area and not know where they're going.
Yeah.
But 100, I mean, the magnitude.
Yeah.
For education, yes, because it doesn't make sense to have one class come out. You bring an entire grade, or you bring an entire, if it's a college campus, then you're bringing your entire, you know, right. It's so all at once. So
I didn't realize we're so unfriendly here.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be very politically correct right now, guys.
Is it still as contentious as it always was? Or are they listening a little bit more or not?
I may
really?
have made someone cry at the meeting.
Okay, I don't know what that means. but-
Yes, it's very contentious. There's a reason we did not get through more than, we had a whole agenda and we didn't even get to the 10-minute break. We literally worked for 3 hours with no breaks, no stopping, no downtime at all. And we didn't even get through half the agenda.
It's getting down to the nitty gritty now. It's getting down to the nitty gritty now, so
It
there's
is.
more,
And
there's
here's-
more angst.
And here's
with
the
everything.
thing, we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing as far as representing our townships and getting the information across with our desires. But we're being met with a lot of resistance because they don't understand how we can disagree with a visitor center or with multiple bathrooms, and things of that nature. So I was quickly shot down when I said one bathroom should be enough. Like, I understand there needs to be a facility, because if you don't have a facility, people will make their own. I get that. But we don't need 2 or 3 bathroom facilities in different locations. We need one, and that's it. And I was told very quickly that for 1,700 acres, you should have more than one. So I tried to use Fair Hill as an example because they're very large and they have like hardly anything. There's some porta pots, basically.
The other the other part that had kind of the cookie cutter same,
Yes. So
tell
that,
us about that.
okay. So when Big Elk Creek was declared a state park, 2 other parks were also declared. Susquehanna Riverlands was one of them. They just completed their master planning process and released at the end of July, and released their master plan and maps last week. It is literally almost identical to the presentation that we saw in November. So for them to say that they are taking each individual park and its needs into consideration to tailor each plan to each park is not true at all. You can literally look, and it's these same photos for everything. And the only thing that changes is the shape of the map, because the parks are shaped differently. Close to. And Susquehanna Riverlands, I guess, did not have the support that we had here. There is a private landowner dead smack in the center of the state park. And they now will be getting an ADA compliant paved trail halfway around their property. And their property will be flanked with a very large campground, including a dumping station, full service RV camping. They're only putting in 5 walk-in campsites. Everything else is RVs and tents, or RVs and cabins. It's huge. It's a huge development of an area that has been historically farmland. They're already reforesting the farmland in areas, putting in a bunch of trails. They have, their visitor center has a plaza going into the visitor center before you even get there. So it's a huge development. It is, and it's also on the Save Big Elk Creek Facebook page if you're on Facebook. But it is on their website. You can look at the slideshow that they presented as their final, and it looks very, very similar to the slideshow we saw in November. So basically Tuesday, this argument will continue. I mean, this meeting will continue so that we can finish the agenda that we never got through. And we'll see where it goes.
Are we getting local government support at the meetings?
So John Lawrence is on the task force and he is backing us up as much as he's able and jumping in when appropriate. I mean, the Chester County representatives are backing us up as well. So the biggest fights we're having right now are between Chester County Representative Lawrence and down with the senator groups and the other special interest groups that are there. So I think we're all pretty united in what we're looking for. We're talking, parking lots to make it safe so people aren't parking on the street. We can agree with that. Permeable parking lots, that's very important. And a bathroom. A two-seat pit latrine, toilet, no electricity, no nothing, done. That's what we are looking to do. They want their visitor center and all of that. And I just don't understand when White Clay is 5 miles away. They're insisting it's dangerous. Well, it's too far and it's dangerous for the tractors when they need to mow. They need a maintenance facility here and they showed us their maintenance facility at White Clay. And it was basically this, woe is us, look at how terrible our facility is because it's an 1800s barn. And that barn is falling apart, but they could use some of the money that they want to spend to build new infrastructure to fix their barn and have plenty of space. But they're arguing that transporting equipment is difficult on the windy roads and it's not safe, that if there is an emergency, we don't have park rangers anyway, but you don't always have a park manager in the office waiting to go. They could be out in White Clay somewhere and then they need to get back to the office to get to their car and then dispatch to Big Elk. So they're insisting that that's a problem, that the lag time for responses is an issue. They need a space for their educator because she has no office. And right now she's working out of Delaware County and drives down here once a week or whatever.
Why would they hire an educator before anything is done?
Because they were given, so they were told, you need to come up with your budget, figure out what your budget's going to be and ask for your money. Before they even had a chance to do anything, they had to throw a number out there, right? So I guess they just dreamed really big, came up with this number, they got that number. If they don't use it, they lose it. So they hired all the staff that they wanted to hire, and they're putting that money toward making sure that those people now have a place to work out of. Because if they don't use the money, they'll lose the money. But there's not a line item in the budget that says that money has to be spent at Big Elk Creek. There's not one line item that says it has to be spent there. So that's where we're at with that.
Well, tell us your good news, because you have the federal
So-
government stepping.
Sorry for being depressing, but we did get a letter. I received it at 11 o'clock last night, so it's relatively new to me. I haven't had a whole lot of time to do a lot of research on it, but it did come from the United States Department of the Interior. Can you throw that up on the screen? Thank you. It is from the Land and Water Conservation Fund. And it basically states that the National Park Service, since Strawbridge 2 property was used as a conversion property for land that was purchased with federal funding and then leased out for gas and oil fracking, that they're using this property as a mitigation property, but they submitted environmental assessment reports stating that this property was to be used for passive recreation only. If DCNR decides that they're using this property for more than the passive recreation that they spoke about in their original proposal to the Department of the Interior, they will have to go through an environmental assessment, a public comment period, and all of that all over again and start from scratch and then hope that that mitigation holds. Because they have very specific criteria to meet with that conversion for the property. And if they go past what that is, what's allowed in the documents that they've already submitted, then they would have to redo it all and hope that they get the conversions again. But there's no guarantee that the federal government will agree to letting them use it as a conversion. So if they decide to go ahead and make this more than passive recreation, they could lose their conversions and have to make it up somewhere else.
Would this preclude them from doing anything that we just talked about?
Not from the visitor center and the bathrooms, no, but it probably would preclude them from putting in like RV camping and things of that nature and any kind of motorized sport or anything like that. Passive recreation, if I remember correctly in the document, was hiking, biking, bird watching, horseback riding. I do believe there's education, yes. But things of that nature that are quiet, they're not disruptive of the environment, you know, minimal disruption is what they have to stick to. So if they start going crazy with wanting to do a lot of building and things of that nature, they're going to have to redo all of the paperwork that they submitted to the federal government.
Yeah, I was hoping it would get you out of this visitor center, but it doesn't. They're stuck at the.
I don't think it will because I like I said, I think the visitor center, you've got White Clay Creek Preserve and they have a visitor center and that's considered passive recreation. So I don't think it does. It was an existing building, yes. So
Do you think they were going to bite on the idea of using the previous footprint? 'Cause that sounds like a great idea.
So when I brought it up, it was the very end of the meeting. We were all very tired and very aggravated with one another. And they were honestly shocked. None of the DCNR people that were sitting in that meeting had any clue that that had ever existed. They seemed interested in it, but they also seemed skeptical, like maybe I had my information wrong. So I'm going into Tuesday's meeting with photos of what was there. I have Google Earth images and things of that nature that I can show them, and we'll see. I don't know if they're going to bite because I don't know if it fits their narrative as where they want trailheads and all, because they want the visitor center to be like the spoke in the wheel for all the trailheads. So whether or not that works, I don't know. We can hope, but
Then they're gonna build 5 more trails.
so
At the very least.
technically there's trails over there that already exist, but they don't like those trails. So they'll be moved because when locals build trails, we don't take into consideration the environmental impact of our trails. So because these were mostly, you know, right, they all, you know, we've all cut our own trails or we've used deer trails that have now become walking paths, things of that nature. They may not be the best location for trails, so they will be doing their own assessments and deciding where trails should be. I do know that they want to utilize the one tunnel that is there, that I do believe the horseback riders already use that tunnel to go from one side of the park to the other. So they want one trail that goes from the visitor center to that tunnel to cut across and use more trails on the other side of the road. And then making it literally like a spoke. It looked like the way they were describing where they wanted the trails to go was kind of like a 5-spoked wheel with the visitor center in the middle.
Keep up the good fight and just keep.
Yeah, thanks for.
We're doing our best. So like I said, Tuesday's the next meeting. There is no field visit on Tuesday since it's just a continuation of the previous meeting. I do think the field visits are helpful, but unfortunately not very many people show up. The notes that I emailed you have a map. When I was on the field visit, I dropped pins at the 2 locations when they had us out looking at the locations for building. So I blew that up and they're little heart-shaped things with notes next to them that say this is where they wanted to put stuff. So you have a full color map in the notes that I emailed you. And if you have any questions about that, just, you know, shoot me an email or give me a call and I can clarify more. Betsy was with me, so she saw the sites too. We had a good time going off-road in our Subaru. But that's it. That's all I have.
Thank you, Anthea. Appreciate your help, your work.
Eileen, did I get everything?
It's a lot of time.
Just want to make sure Eileen is on. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. She's not saying anything, so I'm guessing we're good.
No, I think you're incredibly comprehensive.
Thanks.
I will say it was very contentious.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
all. Yep.
Thanks,
Okay.
guys.
Thanks, guys. Our last order of business on the agenda here is the solicitor's report. Thank you, Guy, for hanging out.
My pleasure. I only have two small items. I'm addressing the American Tower issue with Doug Lovejoy, who is their representative. We've spoken briefly once. We plan to speak again, and when I have some better vision as to what they're going to be proposing, I'll loop Ms. Ortega in, and we'll schedule bringing something to the board for its consideration.
Guy, what's the issue? Is it, maybe I'm not reading emails. What's going on? Is this normal routine or something
Routine. And I'd be fooling you a little bit if I understood why we were going about doing this, but the representative seems intent on having a discussion, so I'm going to have a discussion with him. And the only other issue is something that I alerted the board to today. I would say in a public setting, I wouldn't go much farther than this. But since I joined your township, I think this is the first time when there is no outstanding litigation of any type with any third party relating to your to the job that you do. So you're to be congratulated on that.
Congratulations to you, Guy.
Thanks.
It's all
Good job, Guy.
Yeah.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's really good. All right, great. So let's go to public comments. John, you've been patient and waited with us this whole time. So let me just read the little words I have to read and then we'll turn it over to you. This public comment can include comments on anything attendees might want to share. Commenters must state their name and whether they are a township resident or a taxpayer of the township. And John, you said you were going to make some comments about the wastewater treatment plant. So turn it over to you.
Is that it? My name's Sean Auerbach. I'm a 45-year resident in Franklin Township. My comments are related to the operation of the Lexington Point wastewater treatment plant. I had intended to attend the boss workshop meeting in August, but we had a power failure that evening. So I was able to watch the entire meeting video and most of the comments that are related to the information presented in that meeting. Just a bit of professional background information for my credibility to make some of these comments. My professional background relates to the operation of the wastewater treatment plant. My 25 years of experience with DuPont as a process power project engineer. In this role, I was responsible for the design, construction, oversight, pre-commissioning, planning, plant commission, startup, and process observation of various segments of chemical plants worldwide. I'm experienced with statistical data analysis for process system. I was a Six Sigma black belt during the last few years of my career. Related to the plant, my overall impressions and evaluations of the operating company are very positive. They were effective in presenting their credentials and their experience without conveying overconfidence. I thought they presented that extremely well. I believe they're fully capable of operating the wastewater treatment plant with a high degree of professional attention. So a good company based on my experience and what they said in the meeting. One real plus. Out of all the procedures that were presented, what most impressed me was the proposed operator attention to the wastewater treatment plant. Their operator will attend the wastewater treatment plant on a daily basis. Something that I had hoped for, but I really never thought that they would actually do it. So a major plus. Hopefully I can impress on you how important that function is. A small capacity wastewater treatment plant can be difficult to operate because of the small masses of processed material and biomass in the system. In the event of an abnormal operation, daily attention to the process operation assures that the process control can be reestablished quickly and not allow an abnormality to escalate. So daily attention to this plant is extremely important. They understood it by all of them as they spoke. So I didn't hear anything negative in their presentation. It created a doubt about their ability to operate it through the whole presentation. Concerns. During my 10 years as a supervisor, I had a vision that Franklin Township would evaluate the operating company with technical assistance of ACOM and the developer's engineer and award a contract. Since FT will be Franklin Township with the owner operator, this would be the most logical approach. Unfortunately, the contract with the developer did not allow Franklin Township to pursue this important function. There are two major negatives related to the wastewater treatment plant operating selection. The contract was awarded without competitive bidding conducted by Franklin Township. No RFQ, request for quotation. Number two, Franklin Township lost the key learnings that typically are associated with the RFQ process, and I'll talk about that a bit. The lack of an RFQ process by Franklin Township could put Franklin Township under criticism from Lexington Point residents. The annual cost per resident will be significant, and I would expect these charges for the service will not be well received. Putting it in perspective, just look at the relationships that we have with our typical purveyors, Pico, Verizon, Comcast, and others. These relationships have a wide range of reasons for negative attitudes. But the commonality is that they all are utility purveyor customer relationships. Franklin Township will be a utility purveyor to Lexington Point residents. So that relationship will be in place. An important difference is that the Lexington Point customers do not have any choice. That's just the nature of the contract. So if you look at the components of the annual cost, you'll see that the operating company is by a large margin a major component of the overall cost, with electricity being next, much lower. And the other cost components, insurance, consumables, et cetera, are minimal by comparison. So the cost of the operating company is the biggest component of the costs. And that wasn't competitively bid. By not competitively bidding this high cost to residents could bring critical comments to Franklin. There's no practical recovery for this unless Franklin Township makes an on RFQ inquiry after Franklin assumes full responsibility. That could happen years down the road here, not immediately after. The other one is related to the lost knowledge related to the lack of RFQ process. This is important. Franklin Township could recover some of these key learnings. The request the developer to provide all documents related to the selection process, every document they use to make the selection, review this written material, and then interview the appropriate developer's responsibility. I believe the man was sitting over here somewhere. In my professional career, I was involved in many RFQ processes. The knowledge gained about markets, technical issues, operating procedures, and other was valuable and enormously helpful in the future operation. You learn a hell of a lot of information about what you're about ready to buy by going through this process. So I think you can recover some of that by gathering all that information, review it, and interviewing this particular individual. There was a discussion about a automated data historian. I think the software was Bird's Nest or something like that. There was some discussion about this system as a result of Jim Johnson's inquiry. I strongly recommend that Franklin Township request this system for the wastewater treatment plant. System will automatically collect all the process information from the instrumentation and the plant operation and the mode of configuration. Everything about that plant will be documented in the historian. And based on my professional experience, this historical data is incredibly valuable in identifying past performance issues that have created an abnormal system operation. In the event of some abnormal operation, the data can be analyzed to identify the initiator and root cause of the problem. The data can also be downloaded in Excel, and a wide range of statistical analysis functions can be applied to it. Sometimes just an overall examination of the data won't give you the answer you need, and you need to apply some strong statistical analysis to find the defects creating the problem. So this thing's an incredibly valuable thing, and I would insist on.
And John, on the flip side, it creates a baseline for you to look at and see if there's degradation in the system too.
Absolutely. I'm just trying to summarize, just trying to sell you on the idea without getting too lengthy. But yeah, there are enormous benefits to the system. Sometimes a typical review of the data would not reveal the process defect, where statistical analysis can be beneficial. And there you can when you do it that way, you can directly identify the defect and fix that, and not make overall changes to try to scoop it up. The boss, this is another subject. The boss should be aware and sensitive to additional administrative load the wastewater treatment adds to the township staff. Although all costs related to the wastewater treatment plant are the responsibility of residents served, you have to be mindful the overall workload you apply to your three-person staff. You got to be careful. Now, listening to the discussion of ancillary costs, there are significant additional costs. Mowing, sludge removal, groundwater monitoring, electric water data services. And they're not normally provided by the operating company. So if you ask them to provide those, then they're going to mark the price up 10% on every one of them. That's not insignificant. So if the township staff has to manage these costs in the budget and their bill paying, it's a significant administrative load. The other thing that I mentioned it a couple of times in previous meetings is you need to get their administrative costs for resident billing and fee collection. You cannot do that yourself. I guess the question is, have you identified a contractor that will do that yet? Somebody that's going to collect the money, manage the deficiencies. That's not minor. You need somebody that knows how to do that. The tax collecting agencies, Berkheimer, Keystone, other firms can do this. There are probably others, but that's something you ought to start to consider. That's really what I've got.
It's a good topic. Yeah.
I'd be pleased to talk to you further. I went over the meeting partially this afternoon, so I'll probably go over it again. But if you want to discuss it further, I'd be pleased to. Two other items. Dawn mentioned this meadow, and I'll relate to you the experience we have on our farm that's directly relatable to what you're trying to do. And we have a large meadow. I don't know what the acreage is, but it's pretty big. And Hocking Farms, our farmland, he came to us with a proposal. We had to, instead of just taking the scrub hay that we get off of that field, is to put a quality crop in there. So the crop we selected was orchard grass, which is a real high-end horse feed. Horses just love it. They'll eat that stuff dry over green grass. That's how good it is. So we applied herbicide to the entire meadow, killed everything that was there, and planted the orchard grass. And we got about 2 years of usable crop out of there. But by the third year, all the stuff that had grown there before had come back and displaced all the orchard grass. Did that twice. We're not going to do it again. It just wasn't worth the effort. What you had to, pardon? No. What happens is it only kills what's growing there. But what happens is the stuff that's been growing there, you can call it invasives or whatever, but it's been there for millenniums probably. And all the seeds and rhizomes that grow that stuff are still in the soil. So it doesn't go away just because you apply herbicides to it. So I'm not sure it's worth doing that. You got to really seriously consider that particular path because you just have to replant it every 2 or 3 years. Now, when you talk about crops, money crops like corn or soybeans or winter wheat, the herbicides work because you plant new stuff every year. Okay, but you can't apply herbicides to your meadow grass because I guarantee it would kill everything you plant there. So it's just something I would recommend you seriously consider that you're taking on a significant cost and maintenance thing.
So corn, soybean.
Yeah.
Corn, soybean, winter wheat, we just on the meadow, I'm going to send you some pictures. I saw some Queen Anne's lace growing on our meadow. We hadn't seen that for 7 or 8 years. And I've seen it where the whole meadow turned white, looked like snow, but we only got a few little plants. So I took a few pictures. I'll send them to you. The only other thing Guy had mentioned American Tower, and he said that the thing's going to be pretty routine. My expectation at some point is they're going to come to the township and ask you for a reduction in their cost because the contract I believe the contract we have with them is very beneficial financially and above current market for that. So it wouldn't surprise me that if they come to you. Oh yeah, it's a big income item.
No, we've talked about this. We've been waiting on the other side to present some more information to Guy. But I know Melissa is very cognizant about the money and she's going to be a great person on our side to keep things.
I guess I just remember, I could be getting confused with something else, but I thought we agreed with them a pretty good deal, but not that long ago.
I would agree.
It's something I always thought would come to the township. They would challenge you. Last item, I was listening to Ron Reagan's discussion about the MS4, and he mentioned efficiency of collection of the sediments. And notes I wrote is, well, how do you measure it? Does somebody make some field measurements or something? When you talk about efficiency, usually efficiency applies to some measurements. You go measure what you did and see how effective you were, and that becomes the efficiency. But anyway, I remember about a year, I don't want to go on too far, but I remember years ago, I went to some seminar up there where a bunch of these engineers presented all their projects. And when they're all done, I says, well, how did you measure the effect of the project? And this is, we don't have to. Okay. It's on the model. Yeah, it's all models. So anyway, I don't have any other comments, but you guys did a really good job in the last meeting interrogating that company. That went really well. Let me see. You all did. You all got into it and it was good. So I think you asked all the right questions and you're at the bottom of the hill, still looking up. Okay,
All right, thanks, John.
very good.
Nice, John.
Okay.
Now,
For-
Donna, to be fair, Mr. Johnson had his hand up for a while. So I don't know whether he has any questions or not.
Yeah, just a brief request. So I'm a township resident. I live really on the corner of Thompson Circle and Forest Gump. And a couple of years ago, I think everybody got letters to trim trees that were encroaching into the road. And it's probably time to do that again. A lot of us have kids walking around the neighborhood. A lot of us walk every day. And there's just some places, again, where the trees are so far in the road, it's forcing the pedestrians and the cars and everything to the same space. Some of the stop signs are covered as well. So, that's
I
all.
agree. I'm sorry, sir.
That was all.
No, I agree with you. We are going to be sending out letters, one to Thompson Estates, and probably the other one will be Kimblesville West. And then the residents will have so long to cut those. If they choose not to, then the township will do it and then bill the resident for the work done. But there
Thanks, Jeff.
will,
It sounds like time is important because school buses are going to start rolling again. Yeah, so I know.
no, I agree.
Hi, can I make two quick comments?
Wait, this is still public comments. Go for it.
Okay, so I'd like to point out, by the way, for anybody, I'm Paul Legassi. I'm chairman of the Historical Commission. On September 12th, we have a co-sponsored talk with the New London Area Historical Society by Dr. Cheryl Gooch. She's going to discuss her book, Hinsonville's Heroes, Black Civil War Soldiers of Chester County, Pennsylvania, which traces the stories of residents of Hinsonville, a former free Black community in Southeast PA who fought for the Union. Hinsonville was located up near Lincoln University. It no longer exists. It will be September 12th at 7 p.m. and it will be at the New London Academy building, which is on State Road in New London, PA. The other thing, Antia mentioned a former farm building on the property. Is she still in the meeting room or is she left?
I'm here.
Okay, so you're referring to the old sort of four square concrete looking house that existed where the current property is at what is 344 Striggersville Road. It's
Yes. I think it was
right.
the Crossan Farm. Is that it was the Crossan Farm?
No, this is not Crossing Farm. This is on Strawbridge lands.
Yeah, it was. I'm sorry. I thought that was what it was.
It may have,
Wasn't it called Crossing before, Paul? The one you sent me pictures on that Vic had taken?
right. So by the time the state got it, I don't think there were any barns on the property. The house survived this, and the state was the one that tore the house down. Which you can tell, as I'm sure Antia has noticed by comparing the various maps that are available through Chesco Views and when the when the property was actually turned over to the state. We have a historic resource report on the house, which you might find useful. I mean, it's documentation.
That'd be great if you could email that to myself or to Jeff and he can pass it along to me.
Yeah, I don't know if I have your email, but I can certainly email it to Jeff.
Okay, that'd be wonderful. And I can take it with me on Tuesday for the meeting.
Okay, can do.
I know they tore it down, but DCNR is insisting they didn't even know it existed. So
Well, it wouldn't surprise me if their left hand didn't know what their right was doing.
yeah, that's very true.
you know, and it was a substantial house.
Yes.
And it was, it was not regarded as a high value historic property. And by the time it was torn down, most of what was left on the property were sheds. But it was there. They tore it down. The reason that there are pines growing in a line as a windbreak there is because there was a house there.
Right.
You don't plant pines in anticipation of putting in a parking lot 20 years later.
Yeah.
That's why I just thought that would make sense as a building location.
Yeah, it would, although it will be right on top of the road pretty much right there, it's possible that the neighbors might like it set back a little bit.
I could see that.
Yeah. All right, so that's all I had to say.
Thank you, Paul.
Right.
All right, so I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn the meeting. So, okay, wait. I make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting at 9:27.
I will second.
Thank you, Dan. Any discussion? Don't you dare. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, motion passes 4-0. Thank you, everyone.